Welcome to the Spinner Rack, episode number 2. This is the Patreon exclusive show all about comic books. I am Todd Oxtra, one of your hosts, joined by Charlie Carden.
Woohoo! Comic book stuff.
Absolutely. So we try to figure out the comics we want to cover, and I thought, well, Ant-Man's coming out, and Kang is going to be the main villain. So we haven't really read a Kang-centric only story ever. I've read stories with the villain, and Charlie, I don't think you have either.
Was there another big Kang, like one that was just about him? Because he's a villain going back to 1963 or so. But and this goes back to 1963 and 1964. It just depends on which Kang you're talking about.
Exactly.
Into, but he was, with always it was like World War Kang this or blah 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 this thing or that thing, and all the different, he's fighting different versions of himself, which is of course what this book that we're going to talk all about is him
exactly.
Him
and that book is
Man versus Self.
Yes, that book is Kang the Conqueror, came out in 2021. It ran 5 issues. I think that was the plan, to tell a story arc, and that was it.
Right.
Yep, and this is written by Collin Kelly and Jackson Lanzing. I haven't read anything from them before. Carlos Magno is the penciler, and Mike Del Mundo was the cover artist.
Del Mundo.
It's currently available to buy through, I believe it's graphic novel or comic book collection, trade paperback. Also available through... we read this on Marvel Unlimited, so I'm not sure if it's available on Comixology either, because sometimes they do collections of Marvel stuff there as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
if even by the time this drops at the end of this week, Comixology still exists. You never know.
Yeah. So as you mentioned, Kang, his first appearance, he's one of the constant villains of the Avengers and the Fantastic Four, and created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby back in the day. So this is a heritage villain who, quite honestly, has never been at the top tier of anyone's, just as you think of like the best villains, but he's definitely got a lot to him that makes him an interesting character to go back to as a foil. And he has made many appearances throughout time. So Kang, as you mentioned, Rama Tut in Fantastic Four number 19. That was his first appearance as Kang, the Avengers. He's been Immortus. He's been various versions. If you read Young Avengers, he was, I believe, Metal Lad was an incarnation of Kang as well.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So typically a lot of flim-flam involved with Kang. And so this book came out in 2021, and I'll just give the quick synopsis. The man called Kang the Conqueror has been a pharaoh, a villain, a warlord of the space ways, and even on rare occasions, a hero. Across all timelines, one fact seemed absolute. Time means nothing to Kang the Conqueror. But the truth is more complex. Kang is caught in an endless cycle of creation and destruction, dictated by time and previously unseen by any but the Conqueror himself. So this series, I just want to start off by saying it's really well illustrated. I thought the artwork was great.
Right.
And I thought it was really cool to have the story of the villain kind of leading us, not knowing what we really know about Kang, and from his perspective was really well done. So I give him kudos, because it's tricky to pull this off. We haven't had many successful villain-centric books. I think the Joker had one in like the 70s, which was just kind of goofy and silly. Other than that, we had Doom 2099. I think Doom has had some spin-off books. Lex Luthor might have had a comic back in the past. There's been one-shots and things like that as well.
The one-shot seems to be more where this would land, and it was years ago, and I should search it up and try to find out. Somebody, and it was through Screen Rant or Comic Book News, took like, here's the entire history of Kang, and even trying to explain how that all ties in, how Kang, and this book did a great way of like the newcomer. This is such a great entry point to anyone who really wants to be familiar with what the traditional upbringing of Kang is, because you don't necessarily know what we're going to see in the film. We saw a version of the character of Kang in Loki season 1. He was he the who shall not be named or some such. He was not called
exactly Kang. Like the Time Master, I think.
Right, exactly. He was he was, because the Time Masters, it was the whole thing about the series. Well, the Time Masters don't blah blah, and they were three MacGuffins at the end of it, and it all turns out that it was him. But then Loki kills him and he dies. But again, Kang
You
is
can't kill
unkillable.
Kang.
You
Yeah.
can't kill Kang. But yeah, no, this story really perfectly illustrates the classic origin of Kang. 32nd century. He's a descendant of Reed Richards of the Fantastic Four, Nathaniel Richards. He's a kid. He's too smart for his own good. Life is super boring to him because he lives in this saccharine society of people who do nothing. And I read this a couple weeks ago now, so if I remember, but he breaks into a museum to study, to learn, and it doesn't. He finds a Doombot and activates one of Doctor Doom's Doombots, and then he's off to the races because that leads him to then meeting the real Kang, who takes him into the past, or he takes him into the distant past to live in the woods and spend. He's like, well, no, he takes him
Some
into
hard training, some Batman style hard training.
He takes him into ancient Earth, where it's 1 year until the meteorite hits that's going to wipe out the dinosaurs. It's 65 million years in the past, and he says you're going to learn in that because you only got 12 months to learn how to be a man, son. Brr, 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 and it's like go out and kill a dinosaur with your bare hands or something. But it sets in motion all the things that make Kang this tragic character. His love for, I'm trying to think it's Ravenna or Ravana that goes across the ages. And Ravana, as you find out as the series goes on, is exactly the same as Kang. Endless permutations, can't die, but they can never be together. He spends the entirety of the series once he gets out of the dinosaur time, and he has to kill the older Kang to steal his stuff, and then he jumps forward, but he also ends up in ancient Egypt just in time to meet Ramu Tut, but then conquer him, and then the Fantastic Four make their classic appearances. Like, oh my goodness!
And Apocalypse shows up because there is a relationship between. That was a really cool twist, which I really liked.
Because Apocalypse is a character from the 80s from the first run of X Factor. So there was no interconnectivity back in the day where the Ramatut story took place in 1963, and it was very early on in the Fantastic Four run.
Yeah, and Saba Nur he's the first mutant back in the day,
right.
and in ancient times he was a slave. Kind of similar to the Black Adam storyline, which is kind of like everything's all connected.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, and one of the big parts of this is all about Kang as we see him. He is a bitter, broken man, obsessed, and he says, "Don't fall in love," or "There's no love." Yeah, don't love. And it's essentially this is all about the self-fulfilling prophecy, which is entertaining because he keeps seeing the character saying, I'm not going to be like him. I'm going to do something different. And
I'm not going to be like my dad. Yeah,
exactly. Like every time Nathaniel feels like he can make a change to basically find love and find a different path, there's hijinks. It's like there's always a flaw with time travel. Time travel is, once again, the rules are always weird depending on which incarnation it is. It's like, oh, you can do this. Is it the Back to the Future rules? Is it the butterfly effect rules? We never know.
Right. Exactly.
And that's what this was really dealing with in 5 issues. And I mean, everything Nathaniel tried to push back to led him to where he was. And this, as this wrapped up, you get like that last shot of, kind of where, I don't know if it's going to be a different path or not, but it was kind of like he set Nathaniel on a path as Kang, as Nathaniel. And yeah, it gets a little mind screwy.
Appearing this evening as Kang as Nathaniel is Ramu Tut as Immortus. And the Immortus part of it I'm missing, because when and how did Immortus come into things again?
That's a great question. I think it might have been one of those.
Because it doesn't touch this, yeah.
Yeah, I'd have to look that up, but it was interesting because, you saw Nathaniel had through different time periods in this, and then you saw him kind of like take different paths, like being merciful at one point to someone that was a villain, and that actually ended up backfiring on him with Ravana being shot. And that kind of was the breaking point, because for him, I kind of felt at that point, he's like, I've tried it all.
Right.
And it's not changing. So I'm going to be the mad scientist now and essentially make Chronopolis, the city of time.
Which is, I think that factors really prominently into Quantumania, the movie that's coming out. He's in Chronopolis. And Chronopolis was the hub of the Lego Avengers 2. Lego It was Lego Marvel Superheroes 2. That's what it was. It was the whole hub
Oh, so
around
that's what
Chronopolis. Yeah.
Quantum Mania is based on, Lego Marvel Future
I
2.
certainly hope so, because I want to be able to see you. I want to be able to choose my character, and then he can swim and do this different stuff, and then
And
do these
stacking
different
Legos to
tasks.
solve puzzles.
He
Yeah.
does. He's got to be able to collect gold studs to be able to
It's great
buy other
filmmaking.
characters. It's good. I mean, it's
Yeah.
great. It very, very push a button, choose your own adventure. Yeah.
Yeah, with Chronopolis, he basically makes a city that's composed on time energy to then essentially create infinite opportunities for Ravana to be reborn so he can
Right.
finally love her. And it's great. The one page, it was like a ton of different panels to
Right.
show how it always goes wrong in a different way.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. There's nothing about time travel from, Back to the Future, which, yeah, they managed to wrangle it around somehow to like Endgame, where they're like, yeah, but still Thanos still used this as a way to come forward and still like do it all over again. What is Tony Stark said, you mess with time, it tends to mess back. And what's great about all of it is that there is no, what's the famous line from, do you remember the old, was it Max Landis, his old thing about the death of Superman? And he says, well, I asked my dad once, he says, something about werewolves. He says, it can be anything you want because it's not real. So there are no rules about time travel because time travel is not real.
I've never met a time traveler.
I haven't. You know what? How do you know that I'm not from the 17th century? Oh, my spine. I've got the scurvy.
Exactly.
You never tell.
I brought all these diseases for you.
Yeah,
Enjoy.
exactly. You may have met a time traveler, and that maybe it was a time traveler that gave us COVID. You never know. Oh, exactly. God! Now what have I done? I've started a new conspiracy theory. Sorry about that.
So, like I said, I've never read a comic by these two authors, but I think their approach to Kang was really fresh. It was great. I don't know if we're going to see this, like you said, in Quantumania or not, if this will be part of that what inspired it. But along with that, the art was really, really great.
Yeah, they nailed it. They nailed it. I kind of like a traditional style where, people look like people, even because you didn't get, yes, you got some more fantastical elements, the dinosaurs, and you had ancient people, this, and different stories that different cities that, and this and that. So I think it was well served by a more kind of down to earth style, kind of more of a meat and potatoes kind of deal. Not quite, Steve Ditko, but a little bit more like John Romita Sr. So to speak.
Actually, reminded me of Carlos Pacheco. He was an artist that just passed away not that long ago. He did a series called Avengers Infinity, I think is what it was called. It was a 12-part maxi series, and it was dealing with Kang as well. So I don't know if they were trying to make that style, but it was a really good book at the time. Really pretty, and told basically was a Kang story based on that. So really, really well done. And it is interesting with this book. It didn't go really into like the cameos of like heroes. It didn't have a lot of cameos distracted you. It was really finally focused on what it was doing and what it was trying to accomplish. So I think I give them kudos to that. And this is where Marvel, I think, really succeeds in a lot of their stories when they do these one-offs, because it gets you away from some of those, I don't know, more of the hackneyed and the tried and true. And I think these are the type of stories I think are great. And because they're on Marvel as a whole, there's no like Vertigo for Marvel. There's not like the Marvel Knights line anymore. It's kind of harder to find more of these less cartoonish stories. It would be great if they made a line that was kind of more focused on more of those like call it the Marvels line. I don't know, like where you had the Marvels by Alex Ross. So
yeah. A little bit more the epic, the showpiece, the Sergeant Pepper's, the big masterpiece kind of
more
deal.
Of the high art. Not that it, comics can't all be great, but I think it's more of this is the type of story that you could give to other people and say, here's, read this, and they don't feel like they have had to read a billion stories.
That and that's what in DC why I always love the Elseworlds tales above any. And my favorite is one that went in and out of print. I think it's back in print, but it's not digital. I've talked about it before. The Superman Batman Generations, where you meet them in the 1940s, and then they age normal forward. So you're watching things go, and Clark and Lois get married, and they have a kid who has no powers, and he's really a dick, but he goes to Vietnam, and I think his own troops kill him. And it's just like a lot of like very like weird, like, oh boy, Superman had a son who was kind of jackass, it was just kind of cool, weird twist. But you could be like, okay, well, this story is over now, and I can go back to, doing something else. Or the old What Ifs tales, I love those series, obviously, with that Marvel did throughout the 70s and 80s and 90s. And they do a lot of little one shots here and there now. So
Yeah. So,
But yeah, this was a great one. I really enjoyed this, and like I said, they took the elements of everything that's a juggling act with Kang the character, and they said, here's what what's my motivation. This was his motivation. This is what he was always after, and you didn't have to find a way to catalog all of his appearances and say, he went here, and you didn't have to have the vision board like in, the crazy conspiracy board to figure out where he came from and what he did and why he's, 8 different people and why. So this was great. And it's all canon, so to speak. Shoot your cannon out of a cannon. That's what it is with Kang, who doesn't care about canon because he's everywhere all the time.
He can make his own. He makes his canon constantly. And to your point, Charlie, I think this is essentially taking all that was there before to build up to Kang and to boil it down to, this is really what matters with Kang. Everything else is just willy-nilly. It was like Stan Lee and Jack Kirby are like, hey, we need to bring somebody in. Oh, let's toss in Kang. And this time he's the ringmaster. Okay, sounds good.
He's that guy with the hat.
Exactly. He's got space powers and he does the thing and then he runs away and he comes back another day when we need him. It's like the Marvel vault of villains that they just bring out every once in a while. Oh, we haven't seen the Porcupine in five years. Here he is.
Yeah, right. Well, it was the way with like Spider-Man villains. You get like Doc Ock every like 20 issues. Exactly. Or, which was like every 2 years, like, oh, yeah, he's back again, because there was just the one story and they had to just rotate through who's alive, or, they don't ever kill anybody off, but so-and-so just escaped from, the Electro just escaped from prison and he's back. So, yeah, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so I think this is a great book if you wanted to really get the heart of Kang, along with Loki. I think is a good companion piece to that right before Quantumania, which is coming out middle of this month, or in February. So,
exactly.
Yeah, this is a great way to get yourself prepared. So I really enjoyed this book, and I'd highly recommend it to those who are listening to this podcast now.
This podcaster, yes, and as we mentioned, you can find that on Marvel Unlimited. Marvel Unlimited is great. We've had it for a number of years, and it's the all you can eat Marvel. They publish, most all of their new stuff. They're on a 3-month delay. There's a backlog that's probably over 30,000 comics at this point, and it's pretty much everything they do except a lot of licensed stuff. Even though you do find all the Star Wars. What's nice about the Star Wars, which I do dabble in from time to time, is that they have a lot of the older stuff that they reacquire, so the Legends and the Dark Horse stuff. So there's more than just stuff literally published by Marvel that you can find there, which is pretty cool. So I think it's definitely worth it. But probably again also on Comixology, if that happens to still exist by the time we're talking. And of course at your local comic shop, if you are in the holding it between your hands reading a comic guy, please support local. Go see your local comic shop for these, and they will hook you up.
Absolutely. Maybe even your library has it. You never know.
The library. I love it.
Yes, library. Your taxes pay for it, so why not? So, everyone, this has been Spinner Rack number 2. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Coming to Patreon every other Friday. So it'll be there in audio and video form. So please check it out. And once again, thank you to our Patreons who make this all possible. If you have any suggestions, future comics you'd like us to check us out, please let us know.
By all means, we need the material. We're only 2 guys.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Well, thank you very much. With that, once again, reminder to check out our Patreon, and you'll be up to speed on everything we're doing and keep you informed. We're in our Discord group, and also check out SecretFriendsUnite.com for all things we have out in our repertoire of cool content. So thank you very much, everyone. Once again, I'm Todd Oxtra. Find me at T Oxtra. Charlie Carden
at the C3 at most stuff, and you can find me around. Obviously, in our Discord is my favorite. So yeah, come see us there. Bye, friends. Thanks for stopping by.
Bye. Excelsior.
This podcast is part of the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network. Visit secretfriendsunite.com for more great shows, articles, news, reviews, and more. Secret Friends Unite podcasts are available on Apple, Google, Spotify, and other podcast services around the world. If you'd like to be part of the conversation, you can join us on Facebook or our new Discord server, or follow at Secret Friends U on Twitter. Please subscribe to Secret Friends Unite on YouTube and visit our merch store at tpublic.com. Just search Secret Friends Unite. Thanks for listening.